Welcome to A New Way of Life's 2020 virtual gala. I'm Kristen Bell, and I am very honored to be your host this evening. For those of you celebrating, tonight is also the first night of Hanukkah, the beginning of a festival of light. So I would like to think of this evening as a collective candle lighting, a reminder that whatever challenges and darkness surrounds us, there are bearers of light among us, and A New Way of Life is one of the brightest among them all. I know we all wish we could be together in person tonight for this special event, but that won't stop us from celebrating this organization's life-changing and life-saving accomplishments this year. This year's gala theme is Lifting as We Climb. It's the perfect way to describe the uphill battle of this unprecedented year. Even in these challenging times, A New Way of Life has been a model for what's possible and has kept pushing forward, climbing, and raising others up. This year marks the 22nd anniversary of this incredible organization. In that time, more than 1,200 women and 300 children have found support in safe homes, and pro bono legal services have helped thousands seeking relief from the burden of criminal histories. And this, my friends, is only the beginning. Many of you already know and love A New Way of Life and their courageous founder and director, Susan Burton. Hello, Miss Burton. And for those of you getting acquainted tonight, you will soon understand why it's more critical than ever to support this work. We have a powerful and moving evening ahead, including a big surprise, so let's dive right in. One of the pillars of work at A New Way of Life is family reunification. Many women fight long and very hard battles after returning home to regain custody of their children. Over these past 2 decades, over 400 have been reunited with their children with the help of A New Way of Life. To begin our program, we'll hear from 2 powerful individuals, LaTanya Reed and Shakia Walker, about their experience reuniting with their families. After a period of incarceration, LaTanya found herself at A New Way of Life determined to regain custody of her 3 children. She has been working as a chef for her fellow residents and friends and dreams of opening her own restaurant one day. It has now been a year since LaTanya was able to spend her first Thanksgiving with her children since being incarcerated. LaTanya knows that if it wasn't for A New Way of Life, she may have lost her children to the adoption system. Shakia Walker met Susan Burton at a turning point in her life. After losing her family at a young age, then losing her youngest daughter in a tragic car accident, Shakia thought there was no one left to care about her. After serving time, she found support and a community at A New Way of Life. She has been able to receive healing rehabilitation from her trauma and is set to regain full custody of her children this month. Now, as a mother, I know the unconquerable love for our babies. These women have moved mountains to be here. So let's hear their stories.
When I first met Miss Susan Burton, I was incarcerated, and she was coming, like giving these group of people like a tour, and she had called, they had called like a group of girls to go into this room and kind of get interviewed by her and just share our story and what it's been like being incarcerated. And I remember when I was done sharing and I was getting ready to just roll off in my wheelchair back to my module, she came following behind me and she's like, hey, wait, like, let me talk to you for a minute. She shared with me that she was able to relate, that she had lost a child of her own. I lost custody of my children due to an accident that happened back in February of 2019, which led to my incarceration. But my baby girl, Latoya, she was in a vehicle. That's how I ended up losing her. She ended up being on life support. I've dealt with loss after loss in my life since a little kid. I lost my mom when I was 4, my dad when I was 6, my grandmother when I was 9. My only brother ended up becoming incarcerated and getting life at the age of 17. I've had loss after loss after loss. Never did I ever imagine losing my own child, ever. But I know I have 2 other children that I have to be strong for, and they need me. I remember going back to my cell and just saying, how did she do it? How does she do it? how can I be like that when I get older?
Miss Susan, when I look at her, I see a strong Black woman that's been through a lot, like myself. I see her drive, her motivation, and it just keeps me pushing. It's times to where she told me, she was like, I ain't gonna get off you. And I know what she mean when she says she's not gonna get off of me, like she's gonna push me to greatness. I appreciate that. She understands me. Like I can call her whenever I have a feeling or a moment. Getting out of incarceration, my first thing that I had to do was stay clean. And I didn't want the system to adopt my children out. Before your children returning back into your custody, you have to have a stable and safe environment for your children to go to. My kids mean everything to me. My kids are my air. My kids are my oxygen. My kids are my world and worth fighting every minute for.
So the day that I came to a new way of life, which was May 12th of this year, that was definitely like my priority was like, yes, I'm out. Like now I can go to children's court and I don't have to wait for them to transport me there. They have been able to help me with the classes that was needed in my case plan, such as like parenting classes, which I got a certificate in. I had to do a 12-step program, which was like in my AA meetings, my CA meetings, which they provided for me. Also, a drug treatment program as an outpatient that has been amazing. Everything that was on my case plan, A New Way of Life has had the resources for me to be able to complete it and succeed.
The last two things on my case plan that I needed to do was find a safe haven for my children to go to and stable employment. A New Way of Life is my topping. I've been baking this cake and here's the icing.
I went from monitored visits to unmonitored visits, and now I'm actually having my weekend visits with my children, and then come next month, they're going to be in my custody, and I'm so excited for that. So I'm really grateful for A New Way of Life and all their hard work and everything that they have done for me with my children's case, because if it wasn't for them, I would definitely not be where I am today in my case.
A New Way of Life is a big family, and my kids feel, when they come to A New Way of Life, they feel like with family. Feel like they're with their aunties or cousins. It's the atmosphere is just wonderful.
They enjoy coming to A New Way of Life. My daughter, she's like, Mommy, when am I going to be able to stay here? She hates when she has to leave. And my son, he just loves running around the house. He loves the other residents. Before coming to A New Way of Life, I never had a community that supported me like I have now.
With the help of A New Way of Life, I believe that I'm becoming a better woman. I get to get up and be free.
I want us to hold those words from Shakia in our hearts for a moment. I get to get up and be free. That's what this work is about, freedom. Thank you, Latanya and Shakia, for sharing your stories with us. We know you represent countless others on a journey to reunite with family, which is why A New Way of Life support systems are so critically important. This work needs to expand, and with the support of all of you watching from home, I think we can. If you've met my friend Susan Burton, and you will tonight, you know the boundless vision and belief in what is possible when we expand this work to others. Tonight, we are raising $500,000 to advance this vision, and I believe collectively we can do this. This work and these stories are not possible without all of you. So if you are in a position to help, please join me in taking action tonight to support A New Way of Life. You can text #LiftUs to 44321 or follow the link in your screen to give, and any gift helps. I think it's an understatement to say that no one saw 2020 coming. No one could have known what this year would be like with the onset of COVID-19 and the drastic changes we've all had to make. And those experiencing incarceration have been at extreme risk in this time. Mass incarceration is already a public health crisis, and COVID has compounded that crisis inside our prisons and jails. In California alone, there have been over 88 deaths and 21,187 cases in prisons and jails. Nationally, the US prison population has seen a total of over 225,000 coronavirus cases and over 1,500 deaths. Now, early on, Susan Burton knew the already egregious conditions in jails and prisons would worsen the spread of COVID-19. So she and others took swift action and began to advocate for the release of those most vulnerable to the infection. Thanks to her work, many have been able to qualify for early release and come home. And a new way of life was right there to receive them. In just these past 8 months, A New Way of Life has been providing direct assistance through gift cards and relief programs, while also opening their 9th and 10th homes this year. Now, over 70 women, along with their children, can be housed and supported in a safe, welcoming, bright home to heal and rebuild their lives. COVID has really brought new meaning to the idea of a safe home. So next we'll hear from Livia Pinheiro, a mother of two, born in Brazil and raised here in Los Angeles. She completed her 8-year prison sentence in 2017, only to then be picked up by ICE and held for over 33 months in a detention facility. In May of this year, through a class action lawsuit, Livia was finally able to qualify for temporary release while the pandemic continues. Livia is fighting and advocating for others still detained in ICE custody to bring awareness to the inhumane conditions of living in ICE detention. She's one story of many who experience multiple levels of trauma and abuse in correctional settings. And following Livia's story, we'll welcome Emmy Award-winning documentarian, journalist, author, and philanthropist Soledad O'Brien to speak with A New Way of Life's founder and president, Ms. Susan Burton, about what perseverance has looked like through a year that has been like no other. But before we start, we want to pause and give a very special thank you to all those who donated on behalf of the Alicia and Alfredo Lopez family in dedication to their father, who recently passed.
In 2016, a roommate that I had in prison gave me Susan Burton's information, and I wrote to her, not expecting her to write back. At that point, I had written several programs, and I can't recall if any of them ever wrote back, but she did. And we actually kept in touch. I told her that I needed a program, that I was trying to start my life over once I came home, and I needed guidance to do things different, to keep from repeating the same pattern, the same routine. Once I was released from incarceration, I was picked up by immigration. And while I was there, I kept in touch with Susan. I asked her to save me a bed. I also mentioned to her that everything looked very uncertain. I wasn't even sure if I was going to be released here in the States or not. But she told me to just hang in there and be strong. And I was either going to be site released upon arrival, or that at the longest I would be in there for 6 months, which is the normal. That wasn't the case for me. It was a long, hard fought battle. In ICE detention, what didn't I endure? That place is programmed to break you down to your lowest common denominator and some. I endured emotional abuse, mental, spiritual. I've witnessed physical abuse that the guards do on some of the detainees. If you don't have a strong support system, it's really hard to make it in there. During the pandemic, once I was transferred and I continued writing Susan, she continued writing back. A class action lawsuit was filed on the behalf of detainees that were housed at Yuba County Jail in Mesa Verde. And because I'm high risk medical, suffering from severe asthma, I fell under that class action lawsuit. And that's what got me released. I was court ordered released by a federal judge. Right, the pandemic, though it's brought so much devastation to so many people, it was kind of the silver lining for me. It's sad to say that due to the pandemic, I'm free now. My case is still open. It's still pending. It's given me a chance to come out here and fight my case from the outs. Well, if I didn't have Susan in my life when it was time to come home, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at today. I had really no stable place to go to. I had no guidance. And since I've came home, she's given me endless support. Through her, I've joined A New Way of Life.
I started working, started going to school. I attended Southwest Community College. I became part of another organization, ARC, and I just recently graduated from their pre-apprenticeship program. I've also became part of Second Call. Susan and A New Way of Life have been my solid foundation throughout my whole journey. In the past 6 months since I've been home, I've accomplished so much. Freedom isn't free, and I can't take it for granted. That's been my drive. That's motivated me to keep going forward and to be prepared for whatever may come my way. I can actually be an asset instead of a liability to my community now, and I could be prepared for that next step, prepared for my future.
Susan Burton from A New Way of Life. It's so nice to have an opportunity to chat with you. Thank you for talking with me.
It's my pleasure, Soledad. Thank you for doing this interview and supporting the work that we're doing here in not only Los Angeles, but globally.
Well, you are most welcome. It's my pleasure. Often, when we talk about resources and supports, we think about jobs and housing and ID. But a lot of your work focuses on reintegrating people back into community, like into society. Tell me a little bit about why that's so important, because it's not something you hear about very frequently, I don't think.
Soledad, we all need a place to belong, a place that we fit, a place where our lives have meaning, a place where we can feel dignity, that we feel respected, and that we feel valued. So at A New Way of Life, we provide that space where community is created. We provide that place where people have their roles and they feel a part of something that's for them, but something that's bigger than them.
Talk to me about your project, A New Way of Life Reentry Project. How did it come about? Did you think about it for many years and then decide to grow it? Did it come to you like a bolt in the night, realizing that this was an idea whose time had come? How did you build off of it?
A New Way of Life was created out of my experiences in the beach community in Santa Monica, how resourced they were, how useful it was, how plentiful, how compassionate it was, and I thought that if the women coming home to South LA had these sort of services, then they wouldn't go back to prison, that they would be able to get their lives together. Soledad, I figured I couldn't take back the years of suffering and pain that I experienced in the criminal justice system. But what I could do is to stop another woman from experiencing years and decades of pain and trauma, heartache, and hardship. I couldn't bring my son back, but I could help another woman to get her son back. So we've helped over 1,200 women come back home into the community. We've helped over 300 children to reunite with their moms. So, you know, when you have a child, you have this love for your child. And when the child is gone, the love doesn't go anywhere. The love is still there. So I took that love and I planted it in A New Way of Life. And it's just swole up and more love and more love and more love. And it's good. It's good to see the children safe and playing with their moms. It's good to see the moms get their families back and go on to build a place in the community where they belong.
What was your biggest surprise, and what has been the biggest obstacle since founding the organization, which I think was started in 1998, right?
Yes, yes. It was started in 1998. I think my biggest surprise was that there was so much in me to give. that I could stand up to the challenge. Um, my biggest surprise was the level of success that happened when just basic supports were put in place. And my biggest surprise is the turnaround of respect and I guess people who said that we weren't worth the investment in the beginning now feel like they must make the investment because the outcomes are so great.
One of the things your legal department works on is pro bono services to assist people who are looking for relief from the burden of their criminal histories. Can you explain that to me and why that's so important?
Yeah, so we walk around with the baggage of a felony conviction and we've rebuilt our lives. We've changed and we're new and we're responsible members of the community. But the baggage of that felony conviction, haunts us and holds us down like a weight tethered to our ankle. And we will expunge your records free. We will help you get a vocational license. And all of our services in our legal department are pro bono. And it's sort of a flip on the dynamic. Here you are um, in front of with an attorney provided to you by the state, and they're supporting you to plead guilty and be sentenced to a criminal record, and you're in an orange suit. Well, we provide you first class attorney services, and you're not in an orange suit, and we're freeing you up from the burden of a criminal conviction.
What's been the impact of the pandemic on all the work that you're doing? I know you have many houses now. I think you've opened your ninth and 10th homes, so you have more than 70 women that you're helping along with their kids. Has the pandemic been an opportunity to get more people released, or has it been more problematic because, of course, the pandemic has been an obstacle in so many ways for so many things?
We've been really fortunate, just blessed through this pandemic that none of the women, none of the children in our home have contracted COVID-19. And when the pandemic hit, I thought about how many people are going to be infected because there is no sanitizer, there is no social distancing. People are crammed in such close quarters inside of prisons. And I thought about, what would it be like to be there during this time? Um, the governor and the sheriff said they would not release people because there was nowhere for them to go. And what we did with the help of our supporters was to open another house. So April 10th, we opened a ninth house just for people who were being released during the pandemic. And we urged the governor and we urged the sheriff to release them. And then August 26th, we opened a second house during the pandemic.
Which was your 10th, right?
That made the 10th house that we opened. So we opened two houses during the pandemic. And we did a lot of work with our community to support them to get through the pandemic. And we're still going through it.
What do you think has to change about the system, so when women are inside the criminal justice system, that helps them improve their outcomes for when they get out? I mean, obviously services generally on the outside, sure, but are there things that could happen inside prisons that would help as well?
I think that we need to drastically reduce the amount of people that we have inside of the prisons. We need to change from a paradigm of punishment to a paradigm of rehabilitation, and all that means, from training programs to employment programs to yoga to mindfulness to all of the different ways in which people can heal. that people can be rehabilitated. But I think the most important place to start is to lower the numbers of people who are incarcerated and then focus on those that are incarcerated to present rehabilitative programs, not punishment programs, not treating people in ways that re-traumatize them, harm, and dehumanize them.
I think talking about yoga and stress relief and things like that might be a hard sell for people. On one hand, you completely understand it, but on the other hand, as you know, these things become very politicized very quickly. And as you know, people will say, wait a minute, somebody who's committed a crime getting yoga classes. I think a lot of people want punishment. They want to see people who are incarcerated suffer in some capacity, whether you're talking about drug crimes or you're talking about almost anything. That's been my experience.
So I'm going to pray for those people and hope that they can see the humanity and the potential in each and every one of us. Um, Soledad, there has not been a generation in my family that has not been worked as a slave. Because of our criminal justice system, slavery is still alive and well. I worked in a prison for 8 cents an hour. My father was criminalized for marijuana and worked in a prison. If we didn't work, a day was added onto our sentence. So I say to the people that think that people should be harmed, people should be tortured, people should be slaves, are they in favor of slavery in the 21st century? Do they think we should keep slavery alive and well? Can they see my potential beyond a slave, as a healer, as a freedom fighter, as a woman who's able to see and feel the humanity of my fellow man, my fellow woman? So I'm going to pray. I'm going to pray for those people to be able to not have such a hard heart toward their fellow man and woman.
You wrote a book, Becoming Ms. Burton. Why did you want to write a book?
I wrote Becoming Miss Burton to tell the story of women like me. The book is about my life story, but it's also the story of hundreds of thousands of women across this nation. I wrote the book because in the whole conversation about mass incarceration, we don't talk about women. We don't talk about the hundreds of thousands of women who are also trapped in the criminal justice system. We don't talk about women are the fastest growing segment of the criminal justice system. We don't talk about what services are offered to them and what their potential is and what we need to do to help them. So I wrote the book to put women in the conversation and on the map around reentry, around mass incarceration, and and about the harms of incarcerating so many women. What does it do to our country and our community?
You've had a chance to rewrite the entire narrative of your life. What is your narrative now? How would you describe it in a sentence or two?
I want to take a new way of life and replicate it all across this nation because women are returning to their communities all across the nation. I have knowledge, I have skills, and I want to give it away. That we will end the mass incarceration of women, prepare the harms of the war on drugs, and watch our communities not survive, but thrive.
Susan Burton from A New Way of Life. It's so nice to talk to you. Thank you for all your time.
Thank you, Miss Susan Burton and Soledad O'Brien. I know Soledad would agree with me that being in the presence of Miss Susan Burton is standing in front of a true visionary hero. You heard Miss Burton say it. We don't talk about the hundreds of thousands of women trapped in the criminal legal system. We don't talk enough about what their potential is and what we can do to help them. And we need to end mass incarceration, repair the harms of the war on drugs, and support our communities. Not just survive, but thrive. A New Way of Life is leading the charge on that vision and setting a model, not just in California, but for this entire nation. They are ready to scale. There are more homes that need to be opened and more people that need to be served. And that's a big part of why we are here tonight, to ensure that that vision becomes a reality. Someone who is also shared in that vision is our newly elected DA, Mr. George Gascon. Please help me in welcoming him now.
Hello everyone, I'm George Gascon, newly elected District Attorney for the County of LA. I am reaching out to you today in support of Susan Burton and New Way of Life. Susan and I share a vision. We share a vision of providing people second chances. We share a vision of providing people opportunities to help themselves. And a New Way of Life is precisely that type of organization. It's the type of organization that provides people an opportunity to be themselves and to grow. The theme for this evening is lifting as we climb. And I cannot think about a more appropriate theme for all of us to come together and help others lift themselves as we climb. I want to thank you for your support for A New Way of Life. I want to thank you for your support for Susan and the dream and the mission. And above all, I want to wish you all a wonderful holiday season. Stay healthy and safe. And Susan, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for all the work that you do, for your commitment to others, and above all, for that big heart of yours. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Gascon. So as we're speaking of more homes, it gives me goosebumps to think about this next surprise that I am honored to share for the first time with you tonight. Just this week, the von Furstenberg family made an incredible gift to A New Way of Life, and it comes with a pretty powerful story. The late Lily von Furstenberg was a prisoner during World War II. After being imprisoned for nearly 2 years and losing her opportunity for a college education, she began receiving restitution money from the Germans each month. A savvy and brilliant mind, Lily invested that meager monthly blood money in the stock market and was able to build a small fortune. With that money, she was able to buy her granddaughter, Tatiana, a rundown apartment. Not worth much at the time, but years later, Tatiana was able to sell that apartment and buy an 18-unit apartment building in Los Angeles on Echo Park Lake. And tonight, it is with that love that Tatiana and the von Furstenberg family gift that building, endearingly called Lily of the Lake, to A New Way of Life. Tatiana shared that the building was paid for with currency steeped in suffering and inhumanity, but can now be turned into a place for love and autonomy. There are a few words from Tatiana that she shares. It is with a heart full of intention that I honor my beloved grandmother by paving a way for her gift to me to continue to secure justice and safety to a sisterhood of women who have endured and overcome the challenges of incarceration. It is in memory of and because of my grandmother Lily that I can. What an incredible gift. Thank you so much, Tatiana, and the entire von Furstenberg family for your generosity. Now, generation to generation and from across the world, we are truly all connected. This new building is a powerful leap forward. A New Way of Life is a model that promotes dignity and safety, and I know we all want to see that model expand. So I'm inviting you to get involved in this vision and join as a supporter. We are seeing so many of you giving on the Give Lively page right now, and on behalf of A New Way of Life, we are so grateful. I would love to see us hit $500,000 goal before the night is over. Again, if you can text #LiftUs to 44321 or follow the link on your screen to give. It was just earlier this year in pre-pandemic times that A New Way of Life took center stage at Coldplay's final world tour concert at the Hollywood Palladium. It was a really powerful evening as lead singer Chris Martin and the entire band put a spotlight on the many issues surrounding mass incarceration and on Susan Burton's personal story and A New Way of Life's mission. They are back tonight to continue their support and kick us off, so let's welcome Chris Martin.
Hello Susan and Kristen and everybody at the New Way of Life 22nd Gala. I'm so happy to be part of it on behalf of our band Coldplay. I send you much love and respect. Bye.
It cannot be said enough that this work isn't possible without all of you, all of us together. As we've seen tonight, it takes a mighty village to do this work. Tonight, A New Way of Life will give out 2 awards. The Flozell Woodmore Memorial Award that honors an individual who exhibits extraordinary determination and perseverance in dismantling the collateral consequences of convictions, and the Humanitarian Award, which is given for exceptional and dedicated leadership in working to solve social issues that affect marginalized communities. The following honorees really are heroes among us, and here to announce our first honoree is my friend, Natalie Portman.
Flozell Woodmore joined the staff of A New Way of Life in 2007 after serving 2 decades of a life sentence. In 2010, she was awarded a Soros Justice Fellowship to organize friends and family members of people serving life sentences in California to support their appropriate release and advocate for long-term systemic change in the parole system. Sadly, Flozell died in 2013. To honor her memory, A New Way of Life established the Flozell Woodmore Memorial Award. This award honors a woman who has embraced the opportunities A New Way of Life offers and exhibits extraordinary determination and perseverance in furthering the success of her personal reentry journey. This year's recipient of the Flozell Woodmore Memorial Award is Yolanda Sims. Yolanda was released from prison on March 15, 2015, and came to A New Way of Life. After 20 years in prison, she didn't know what to expect, but she had a dream that one day she would open her own beauty shop and teach other formerly incarcerated people how to earn their cosmetology licenses. To fuel and fund her dream, Yolanda worked tirelessly, doing hair by day and cleaning offices and mosques throughout the night. When possible, she also provided opportunities for residents at A New Way of Life to work in her janitorial business. Finally, in October 2019, Talk About It Hair and Nail Salon opened for business. In early 2020, when the pandemic hit, salons were ordered to close. Undeterred, Yolanda shifted her business to focus on providing cleaning and janitorial services. Even with those struggles, she didn't give up. With perseverance and help from her community, on October 17, 2020, she was able to reopen the doors of her salon again. Through sheer grit and determination, Talk About It Hair and Nail Salon remains open, and Yolanda has maintained the drive and fire needed to keep her dream alive. Tonight, we honor Yolanda as an individual who has fully embraced the support and resources offered by A New Way of Life. She has exhibited extraordinary determination and resolve on her path toward success, always lifting others as she climbs. Please welcome Yolanda Sims.
I'll first like to say Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to receive this Flozell Woodmore Award. It's a very emotional time because I knew Muka and we were incarcerated together, and we started off doing a lot of things together from the beginning. She was moved and then I was moved, so we kind of didn't get to meet as much as we did. She went one way and I went another. But however, we ended up on the same journey to our freedom. I would like to thank Susan Burton because it was a long walk back to come from being incarcerated to follow my dreams. And I had to literally get angry, and I missed a lot of our meetings and a lot of time that I wish I would have had that I could have spent with some of the other ladies in there. But right off the top, I hit the ground running and knowing what I wanted and what I had to do to get my life back. I paroled in March of 2015. Upon my parole, I came home to literally like nothing. My mom was gone, my family, I didn't know where my kids was. It was horrible. But Susan always embraced us to let us know that she was our family. She was the mom. She was the sister. She was everything, her and Tiffany. So with that, I was able to fight even harder to get my life back. This award means so much to me. I can't even, like I told her, please don't you deliver it. I'm gonna start crying, and even now I get emotional. But during this time, I have allowed God to just guide me. And I knew that I didn't want to come out and be a disappointment to her, knowing that she put her neck on the line to see me, to make the challenges and decisions that she made for me to keep a job. I was working 3 jobs and I was doing maid service downtown. And then I was just like, I think I want my own maid company because I want to do a staffing company for women in prison. So when we come out, they wouldn't have to go through what I went through. Everybody wasn't going to come out of prison and had a cosmetology license. So I started a maid service, and in that maid service, I started going on 91st, getting ladies to come out and go work with me. I know that it's nothing that we cannot do as women if we want to. If we really want it, we can go get it. So what I started doing is I started picking up the ladies, paying them $10 an hour. I think at that time, minimum wage was $9 something. I was giving up $10 an hour. So we would go way out and go clean. And I would talk to the ladies and share my dreams with them and just constantly talk and just see where they were at with different things. And then I started talking to Doris Mosley, asking her about the apprenticeship program. How can I get them to come in and get their license into the salon? She said, girl, that's a good idea. She said, you get the students, I'll be the teacher, and we will get their license. And that's what we've been doing. March, we opened in October of 2019. Shortly after that, we were hit with the pandemic. We was hit with the pandemic, and it was literally like right in the middle of me refurbishing a building that someone had given us at less cost, and it should be $5,000. The lady gave it to us for $2,400 a month. I started working on the building and building it from the ground up. March 2020, the pandemic hit. I didn't know what I was going to do. My partner was like, girl, I'm done. She left. She didn't even stay a day after the pandemic. I said, but Sherelle, we got to keep going. We can't just give up like that. Now, she's the wellness. I was the salon. What would I do? So me and Miss Ruth was on I think it was like a Wednesday or Thursday. We headed towards Home Depot. And I was telling Miss Ruth, because there's still stuff we had to do in here. I was like, Miss Ruth, it's a lot of stuff. I was like, they finna make us open outside. I was like, so we need to go try to find some tents and plants and try to just do what they asked us so we can keep going. Soon as I went to Home Depot, I walked to the back and I'm looking at all the plants and I run straight into Susan. She said, girl, how you doing? I was like, oh, I'm okay. She said, what's going on with you? So, Susan, she gonna get it out. She gonna, whatever you're going through, she finna hear it, or it's good, or whether it's bad. So I started telling her, I was like, I'm here because I gotta get some tents because they putting us, saying that the only way we're gonna open is in the back of the salon. She said, girl, she was on her way out the door. She said, follow me out here and get this application and fill it out. I went and filled out the application. By the SBA denying us of our loan, they didn't deny us, but they taken me through hell to get it. Every paper that they can name, I have filled out. They approved me for $25,000 in April. I'm still waiting for them to release the funds. When I walked out with Susan and I was telling her about it, she said, girl, don't worry about that. Give me the paper back. So I filled it out and handed her the paper. She said, call over to the office tomorrow and talk to someone. I don't even remember who it was. I turned to Miss Ruth. I said, did you hear that, Miss Ruth? Miss Ruth said, girl, let God work it out. That night I went home and I started putting the plants in the back. We started setting up in the back, but we ran into a problem. The tents, I bought the wrong tents. I brought umbrellas. I needed tents. So when the state board gave us our reopening guidelines, I was missing the tents. So about maybe 4 or 5 hours after I realized that, a New Way of Life called. They was like, Ananda, you have to come over to the office and we talk to you. I went over here. It was like, we're buying the tents for the back of your shop. I like to pass out. And in me saying that, it was just like, during this pandemic, hadn't it been for God and the way of life, I would have never made it, because everything has shut down. Not just us, but everything. So I kept going and I kept telling everybody about what was going on. And then they called and said, not only that, they want to pay your rent. And I was like, pay my rent and your gas bill and your light bill. I was like, what? It was like, when you see Oprah and they say, you get a new car and you get a new car. I just felt like that in that moment. Like it was just, everything was happening in our favor. So I thank God and I thank you so much for the award. I'm going to keep working hard. I hope to have salons in like 50 different states if God's willing. And I want to keep a staffing program going for ladies like me to come out to never lose their dream. Thank you and God bless.
It's my honor tonight to present the Humanitarian Award to two really great people. Before Black Lives Matter was a phrase the nation would have to reckon with, Bill recognized the lack of investment in Black people and in Black communities and Black-led organizations. He took a deep dive into examining what was happening, and as a result, he created the Black Equity Initiative, which has transformed into the Black Equity Collective. Bill has done so much, he and Michael. They've created safe houses in Uganda to provide refuge to the LGBT community. They've also created safe houses in Kenya and in Illinois. Michael was raised in a family that deeply believed that good government created good representation for the community, and where politics, a central element to creating equity and promoting good community relations. He deeply believes we can and should have good government representation. Therefore, he's invested and works tirelessly to make sure that women of color are supported to run for elected offices. Michael also traveled with the formerly incarcerated and convicted people's movement to Florida, where he walked with us, he phone banked with us, and he supported the passing of Amendment 4, which reinstated the vote for 1.5 million people. These people now can vote in the state of Florida. You know, Michael is a person that really likes making good trouble, and I like making good trouble with him, and I just love him for that. Bill is a doctor of psychiatry and a mindfulness teacher. Michael holds a law degree. On a deeper level, you would be hard-pressed to find a more generous duo. They have felt the sting and isolation firsthand and have sought to use their philanthropy as a way to build community and to help people feel more connected, not only to themselves, but to each other. Both possess a unique understanding of the human condition and the empathy required to meet folks where they're at. Therefore, they focus less on benevolence and more on promoting human dignity. For instance, in 2018, Bill opened the Big Bear Retreat Center. I personally have witnessed the love and the care that he's put into that retreat center. He and Michael have made it so comfortable, so beautiful, not for themselves, but for their guests. Then the nationwide protests erupted, Black Lives Matter, and they offered that retreat center to Black and Brown organizers for a place to reflect, to rest, and to heal. But they'll never tell you that because Bill and Michael are both incredibly humble, endlessly curious, and never presumptuous about what the community wants or needs, and everything in between. They ask questions, listen to the answers, and respond based on what they've heard. You know, it's something that we wish every leader did a little more of. And in my work with Bill and his siblings, I've always observed him to be a student, always patient with results and careful not to dictate the outcome. In short, he actually makes the effort to fund and fuel the work that leaders say need to be done. And lastly, and most importantly, they recognize their privilege as both an opportunity and a responsibility. They've offered their home to formerly incarcerated people who are trying to get back on their feet, provided their home to staff holiday parties, retreats, and trainings, opened the retreat center to activists and social justice warriors, and led mindfulness sessions. All this they did during the pandemic. They paid for convenings and speakers that inspire and support the work of the grantees, consistently support women of color running for office. They fiercely stand with justice-involved youth, demanding fair and humane treatment. In fact, I've often heard Michael say, these are our kids that they're treating like that. We would not let this happen to our own kids. You know, I feel so fortunate to know Michael and Bill, and my life is so much bigger and so much richer as a result of our relationship, our friendship. And I just feel so lucky to know them. When I think of Bill and Michael, I think of them as the power couple of West Hollywood. So without further ado, I'd like to present the Humanitarian Award to Dr. Bill Resnick and Michael J. Stubbs.
Thank you, Susan. I can't thank you enough really for recognizing us, for choosing to honor us today. And this is a beautiful piece of art that we will treasure, I know. So one thing that Susan didn't mention so much is that over the last 3.5 years, I'd say, we've become very close friends with Susan, pretty much check in every day. And it's just been an education. It's been, first of all, she's just a wonderful friend, and we enjoy our time with her, and we, share everything from, political activism to gardening tips and sharing food, but just, getting close to Susan has been a real education and eye-opening, and it's been a wonderful privilege. And through Susan, getting to know the work of A New Way of Life, and it's just pretty remarkable. And just watching it grow over the last couple of years, and particularly since the pandemic, Susan just sort of jumped into action to open new houses and serve more women who were coming out of incarceration. For me, I also want to acknowledge my siblings, who were a big part of connecting me to A New Way of Life through the Jib Fund. It was really my sister Eileen's idea in the first place to work on something that addressed the inequities that the Black community experiences, and we really wouldn't have been successful without having hired Casey Patterson to really do the work, to find the organizations, to look at the big picture. And I can't imagine anybody else being able to do that, and I'm just grateful for all of those connections. As Susan mentioned, I mean, we are very aware of our privilege, and we feel very much that we have a responsibility to give back, to help heal the world in various ways, and really starting in LA. I think that I've pretty much born and raised here, and there were so many parts of LA and communities within LA that I really didn't know and had very little clue about. And as a grown up now, trying to understand that and appreciate the interconnections, and in the ways that I can give back and help promote justice and equity. Thank you again, and I'll turn it over to my husband, Michael.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Susan, and everybody at A New Way of Life, all those wonderful ladies who we won't be able to see at your gala in person this year. Always a really high point for us, and the men, Michael, we see you, but we do see all of you and acknowledge you, your struggle, your success, your challenges and victories. As Bill said, getting to know Susan over the last few years has been, I mean, that's the real privilege that's my favorite part of the privilege, is that we have the opportunity to meet and connect with real heroes. And Susan is at the top of that list of remarkable people who, again, as Bill says, didn't contract during these challenging times, actually expanding to meet the growing need. I can't think of anyone who I'd rather get into good trouble with than Susan Burton, or for whom I would say, I'll never say no to Susan. We always say, we'll never say no to Susan, and it's not out of fear. It's not out of concern for hurt feelings. It's because we know that when Susan has a dream and when she has a vision, that if there's anything that we could do to help make that happen, that we will be rewarded over and over and over again. Systemic change, magnificent outcomes for entire populations, individuals. Susan, we treasure you. We see you, we love you. We're so honored and we are so touched by you and by this acknowledgement. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to our inspiring honorees this evening. Now, I am honored to introduce Angelique Evans and Ingrid Archie to talk about the Free the Vote campaign, where they worked tirelessly to pass yes on Proposition 17 in California in last month's election. It is so important that we continue to fight for the restoration of voting rights for the over 70 million people affected by the collateral consequences of incarceration.
Free the Vote campaign is a campaign to free up 50,000 individuals who face the barrier of not being able to vote in California after incarceration.
I was once on parole and couldn't vote. I was angry. I was really angry because as I'm seeing what people that are not formally incarcerated, opposers and whatnot, speak on and have a say-so in what happens into my life, was really frustrating.
At that time, I did not feel like a complete citizen. I just felt like someone who had been let out into the community under certain guidelines. After serving time, I was paying taxes, I was raising my kids, I was working, and I still could not participate in voting.
However, that frustration inspired me and made me more determined to make sure that we as people have that voice.
Even though we were in the middle of a pandemic, that did not stop us. It only gave us the courage to make sure that we have our people turn out, because it was still an important election. As a team at A New Way of Life, some of the efforts that we put together was to hire people from the community to do some phone banking. We were able to canvass our communities by social distancing and still being able to put up door hangers with information on Yes on 17.
In collaboration with the formerly incarcerated convicted people's family movement, All of Us or None, and A New Way of Life, we mobilized across 30 states to make sure that folks were registered to vote and brought awareness to Proposition 17, Free the Vote.
Because of our amazing collective efforts, even during a pandemic and such an important election season, we were able to restore the right to vote to 50,000 Californians currently on parole. Such a big win, such amazing work, and we only have just so much more to do.
When Proposition 17 passed, I literally screamed for joy. I was so excited just thinking about so many people that are coming home that can have a say in what happens into their communities. There's no feeling you can describe for that. As folks are coming home, you know, we all deserve a second chance. We all do.
I was sitting in the living room with my children on election watch. I felt like the spirit of my ancestors arose up and were just celebrating all of their hard work and blood, sweat, and tears, and the fact that in present day, I was a part of making history. A lot of decisions are being made from people who don't come from our communities. We get to make those decisions and who sits in those seats, what measures are passed, and how things affect people in our community. Because now it is time that we elect officials for us, by us.
Thank you to Ingrid and Angelique for sharing about your voter turnout effort this year. That's awesome. There is no stopping what's possible when we organize and mobilize. Now, I hope we've all been inspired through A New Way of Life tonight, celebrating the powerful work of this past year and over these past 2 decades. I know I have. Especially celebrating the opening of the 10th Safe Home and the upcoming addition of the 18-unit apartment complex made possible by the von Furstenberg family's incredibly generous donation. So at this point in the evening, you've heard the vision to continue opening more safe houses and elevate A New Way of Life as the go-to source for reentry programs across the country to reduce recidivism rates and undo the shackles of mass incarceration. It's time that every city, every county, every community in this nation provides safe returns for formerly incarcerated individuals. It is time to reunite more families and promote healing in our communities. And A New Way of Life is blazing that trail. Let's amplify this vision together right now. Everyone at home, if you are as moved as I have been by Susan and her work, spread the love. Text someone you know or share on social media about why you're lit up tonight by this work and invite your community to support. Now, there's one more piece of the vision we want to share with you tonight. A New Way of Life has a dream to bring a reentry campus into reality. This campus would be a place where all this work can come together, a home base and a launching pad for returning community members. Let's hear more about this exciting vision and what's to come next year. So I'd like to welcome the illustrious Frank Gehry. You know his architectural genius from spaces like the Guggenheim Museum and Walt Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles. Frank has also been a longtime friend and supporter of A New Way of Life and is joined in conversation with our fearless leader, Ms. Susan Burton.
Frank.
Are we supposed to do some interview now or nothing?
No, well, we talked a little bit about you designing. Could you share anything about what you could envision as a design? I'd like you to develop stuff for me.
That's easy.
For you, it is.
Yeah, but you need somebody to pay for building it. I could design it, you could have it so that it fits a lot of different ideas. So it's just a matter of designing the facility so that these different venues could come out and use them for various programs that you want to have, you know.
So you would design a reentry campus?
Yeah, I would help you try to do it, yeah. I mean, I do my personal part I could do for free, but then if we have to hire engineers and draftsmen and people like that, we'd have to figure out a way to pay for some of that.
After we were in the jail and then you came to a new way of life. What was your thought about those same women you saw inside now at a new way of life? Just, what was your thoughts?
Well, I thought there was a breath of fresh air that somebody understood what they'd been through. Somebody listened to their stories and accepted the terrible conditions that created their problem in the first place, and willing to say, look, if we give these people an even chance, they'll rehabilitate, they'll become normal members of society if they're given a chance. And so along comes Susan Burton, that's you, who's experienced all of the same things they have. And you say, look, if I could create a house for you to come to when you get out of jail so that you can ease your way back into the world in a safe way, and you're given some training as to what's going on and how you can become part of it, and how easy it is just to flip that switch once you believe in it. And once you're given a room with a nice bed and a soft pillow to lay your head on, and a reasonable bathroom to go to that isn't demeaning, that is respectful of your body, that's got to work. That's got to be able to bring these people the comfort. They might not trust it to begin with, but if you keep them there for a few months, they'll get it. They'll feel, and they'll trust it, and they'll do the right thing, and they'll know how to do it. The environment, the people around them will, without trying, will show them how to come back, and all of those things that what you do, Susan, with one house. I was there when you did one house, and you had 5 bedrooms and 5 women, and they all were scared as hell to jump in. They didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't trust it at first. It seemed too good to be true, and it takes a while, and takes the loving care that you gave them, and then 6 months later, they're different people, aren't they? And they can teach other people and feel comfortable. I think that's what you do. And it's baby steps. And, you had 5 people, and it grew into, I don't know how many you got now, 30, 40?
We have 10 homes now, and we have places that we're replicating all over the world. We have a place in, we're in 17 states in 2 countries, Uganda and Kenya.
I understand what you're doing, and I understand the impact of it. And I think it's brilliant, and it's amazing that you were able to do it, given where you came from and how you lived before that. And it takes a kind of vision of who you are that you never forgot. And you hung on to that vision. When you got the chance, you brought that vision back to life. You brought that Susan back to life. And that Susan decided to do all these things, has created something spectacular for a spectacular model for the world.
Thank you, Frank. Frank, I want you to meet Emmanuel. He's waiting for his swing to get put together. That's Frank Geary. He's the
Frank.
Hi, Emmanuel.
Yeah, there we go. Say hi.
Hi.
So Frank built
Emmanuel, you're a handsome dude. Watch out, ladies. Here he comes.
He wants a swing to be put together, so they're just putting it together.
I don't blame him. He's got to get his swing.
Yeah, I thought I'd introduce you. He came up and gave me a hug.
Yeah.
But you do have it right. You're so sensitive to understand that, and you taught me that in your architecture. So I just want to encourage people to give and support the possibility of building something.
Yeah, we can train them too.
All right.
We'll create a crew.
Okay.
Let's get on with it.
Let's get on with it. All right.
Enough of this love talk.
Okay. Well, Frank,
I want
thanks.
some action, some real stuff.
I want some action too. Action keep me going. Yes. Yeah. On to the next thing. So yes. All right. Well, Frank, thank you so much.
Just keep doing what you're doing, Susan. Don't give up, for God's sake.
I know
you won't.
No, I won't give up. I'm trying to see how I can scale it and teach people how to do it and mentor them and just make these places all over the country, all over the world.
I started at A New Way of Life in August of 2010, working one day a week. I came in to clean up her books because Susan's bookkeeper had left.
I've been with the organization for 8 years now. I came to A New Way of Life in 2012 through a temporary work program and have supported the mission ever since.
So when I first came to A New Way of Life, the staff was a lot smaller than it is now. There might have been 3 or 4 people on the payroll. The funding wasn't there to keep things going, so Susan wouldn't take a check.
And over the years, the organization has grown to a place that we could only hope for.
Today, it's nonstop. So our impact is international. It is great to be a part of that. Sometimes I don't remember that, and then Susan will say, don't forget, you're helping Georgia. You're gonna help Georgia. We did this in Florida.
People ask me why I do the work that I do, and it's because of the joy that I see across a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old face that was just reunited with their parents. To see that family reunited in a way where the mother can actually hug her kids and provide them with the love that no one else can.
I am humbled to have been considered to be a co-director. I work hard and I try to do the best that I can do, and it's great that someone saw that. It is amazing. I'm really, really proud to be a part of A New Way of Life.
Susan Burton has created a legacy here at A New Way of Life. And as co-director, I want to continue that legacy into the future.
My hopes for A New Way of Life for the future are to get a building, our own office space where we're not renting. I just want to continue to be the voice that's heard around the nation. When people talk reentry, I want them to think A New Way of Life first.
Sky's the limit for the future of A New Way of Life. I see us providing safety for women, not only in Southern California, but across the nation.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm thrilled to be part of tonight's program. I know that this has been a challenging year for everyone, but that is all the more reason to support A New Way of Life. Right now, the majority of people I know are all hibernating, waiting for this thing to pass. Unfortunately, human rights abuses don't hibernate or stop because we do. Mistreated women who are wrongly placed in jails don't get to hibernate because of COVID. And our amazing Susan Burton certainly doesn't hibernate. She just works harder. And it's because of her program that thousands of women are receiving help who otherwise would not have a voice. And that brings us to why we are here tonight. I got to know Susan in 2019. I've been deeply moved by her book and I wanted to help. She toured a group of us through Linwood Women's Jail in Los Angeles, which is the largest jail of its kind. And I witnessed firsthand the absurd unworkability of mass incarceration. The jail was packed to capacity, and shockingly, over 60% of the entire population was forcibly put on psychotropic drugs to behave. Most of the women I met were young mothers with limited to zero access to their kids. In fact, more shockingly, 90% were victims of sexual physical violence as young as 8 years old. Often those circumstances and their need to fight led to their imprisonment. This so-called rehabilitation cost us $50,000 a year per person in taxpayer dollars. Once released, these ladies have a short time to find housing and a job, but because of their records, they are routinely turned down. Out of desperation, they resort back to petty crime for dollars to survive, and the cycle repeats. Enter Susan and her program. Instead of incarceration, a new way of life provides safe housing and support, whether it's education, rehab, training, legal services, employment, to these system-impacted women at roughly 1/3 the cost of incarceration. We know now that giving a woman a hand up after prison not only empowers her, but strengthens the community. This is not a handout. This is a hand up. Without question, Susan Burton is a beacon of hope, allowing these women for the first time an actual chance to rebuild their lives. In times like this, it is often said that when we're feeling low, the best thing we can do is help another. So I would encourage everyone watching tonight to throw your weight and support behind Susan and a new way of life in any way you can. You are our role model, Susan. And I'd like to thank everyone watching for the help that you have given, and I know that you will again give now. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela Marshall and Michael Towler, for your leadership and sharing about the vision ahead. And thank you, Anne, for reminding us that the investment we make in women is an investment in our communities. I'd like to welcome a few of our sponsors and supporters to talk about why and how they are contributing to the solution.
Hello, I'm Dick Heiser. In 2012, Susan recruited me for her expungement project. In partnership with UCLA law students and under the supervision of 3 outstanding attorneys, Pavitra Menon, Stephanie Lynn, and C.T. Turney, we prepare applications to clear misdemeanors and some felonies from people's records, helping them get jobs, professional licenses, and apartment leases. It can take a couple of hours to prepare the paperwork for one client. We're the biggest expungement clinic in Southern California. This complex process demands precision, and we do a quality job. Our excellent outcomes show that the courts recognize the care and accuracy that we practice. A different organization expunged some, but not all, of one client's cases. He told us they had a limit of 3 cases. We don't operate that way. We're a full-service agency. In the Sunday, November 22nd, Los Angeles Times, there's a 3-page story that police are training landlords how to discriminate against people who have some interaction with the police, even just an arrest. This is disproportionately harmful to people of color. When a politician says, "We don't want a lot of criminals in our community," and pushes a lot of unfortunate people away to another jurisdiction, that doesn't help. It's like having sundown laws in 2020. Finally, systemic racism is being exposed in a way that anyone can understand. This is one reason expungement clinics are a meaningful opportunity for volunteers. Our clients appreciate the chance to overcome criminal history obstacles. A new way of life deserves our support.
Hi, I'm Julia Meltzer. I am a former board member of A New Way of Life and also a sponsor of Lifting as We Climb. I support A New Way of Life because I believe strongly in all the work that they do. I have spent time with women in the program. I have seen how this program dramatically helps women coming out of prison. I believe that prisons should be abolished and that we should have programs like A New Way of Life everywhere across this country to help women, especially, recover from the traumatic experience of being incarcerated. And I hope that everyone here watching and listening will stay with this program and support A New Way of Life in its continued growth. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Supervisor Holly Mitchell and just wanted to say congratulations to your amazing honorees this evening, to the Board of Directors, to Ms. Burton, and the people who make A New Way of Life possible. So for so many of our friends, families, and neighbors who need your services. I'm thrilled to be with you as I typically am every year, even in these unique circumstances, but just wanted to lend my voice to say thank you and know that I always have your back. I too am a supporter of A New Way of Life.
Thank you to all of our generous sponsors, donors, and supporters who make this work possible. So on behalf of A New Way of Life, I especially want to thank Stuart and Linda Resnick with The Wonderful Company, Julia Meltzer and David Thorne, Justin Wine, Los Angeles County Supervisor Holly J. Mitchell, Los Angeles City Council Member Marquise Harris Dawson, Californians for Safety and Justice, RSD Charitable and Educational Foundation, the California Wellness Foundation, Affordable Housing CDC, Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon, and my team at Happy Dance. So this year may have felt like a century in many ways, but if this is what A New Way of Life can do in 1 year, in the middle of a pandemic, next year doesn't even know what's coming. Thank you to all of you who have given tonight. And if you can, please continue to give and encourage others to give too. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We hope that it's ignited a fire in your hearts as we enter this holiday season. I know it has in mine. It has been my honor to be your host this evening. From my living room to yours, wishing you a beautiful evening. Good night.